What's up, y'all? It's Brad Allen with The Art of Real Estate, and I just read an article from Realtor.com that I thought was really good, but it's predicting 2026. And I love this time of year because everybody seems to be, a truth teller, a fortune teller this time of year. And I've never seen anybody kind of get it right either. So I figured let's just talk about the article, which really kind of leads us in the bigger picture of let's talk about the economy and what it might look like. I got some notes, so I'll be reading off of those. So don't think I'm just coming off the top of my head with all these crazy ideas. But I did think it's kind of interesting that I think this market, what everybody's kind of talking about is growth or maybe rebalancing. I think part of real estate is, the optimism, the selling of the, hey, it's gonna be better, go ahead and buy. Because if we're always talking about, oh, well, it's always gonna be better, go ahead and buy, then people aren't gonna be reluctant to pull the trigger. But if we're like, actually, it might be a bad year, which I've never heard anybody say in 20 years, people may not buy. So I'm kind of curious to see what's real and then what's kind of propaganda. But honestly, we had a bunch of big names in this article. Obviously, Dr. Yoon, Dr. Lutz, both of those people from NAR staff. We have the lady, Ms. Hale from Realtor.com, and one of the chief economists from the Builders Association. So first, NAR's chief legal economist, Dr. Yoon, is calling for a 14% increase in home sales nationwide in 2026. 14%, that's a big number after several years of near 4 million existing home sales. That is a big number. We've been stuck at 4 million home sales. So the optimistic side of the story makes sense. Life events are back in charge. Interest rates are coming down. That's a big factor in this next year. Honestly, when money comes down, when prices stuff comes down, more people get married. More people take different jobs. They're expecting the cost of wages to increase, which is going to be good. So we got prices stabilizing, coming down. We've got interest rates coming down, the cost of money, and people might start making more for the first time in a couple of years. So that's good. I think that's a good thing to be looking at. And honestly, when money comes down too, that means the economy is doing pretty well, and that means more people are also retiring. So I think they got a couple of good points in here. Now, the skeptical angle of this, 14% is high, y'all. 14%, that's a big number. Fannie Mae's newer forecast has sales reaching 7% in 2026. Now, I think Dr. Yoon's great. He's from our hometown right here in Columbia, South Carolina, so I'm a fanboy of Dr. Yoon's. I'm just curious what's going to turn out. And, some people are saying more of a reset than a rebound. If you read a lot of the different news articles, we're kind of going to get back to resetting. But Dr. Yoon saying, hey, 14%, that's rebounding, which is going to be quite interesting. So I don't know. I'd probably say there's going to be some more transactions than last year, which will be good. And I don't think it's going to be 2021 by any means. All right, so let's talk about pricing, inventory, and affordability. A lot of the economists in this article are pretty much aligned on it, right? So they're thinking low single-digit growth in pricing. They think that the prediction would be the 1 to 3% price appreciation nationally in 2026. And that's from Realtor.com, NAR, Zillow, and Fannie Mae are all kind of in that range. So that's good when they're all in agreement. The bullish read on this is that it makes the market look stable, really. Wages are finally going a bit, like I talked about earlier. Payments are actually starting to come down, talked about that as well. And that Realtor.com and the others are calling for a start of a new era of slowly improving affordability. Yes, hopefully, right? We need affordability so more people will buy, but sometimes when having more affordability means prices are coming down or not appreciating as fast. So there is a different side to that stick for sure. The pushback, however, is affordability is improving doesn't mean housing is suddenly cheap. Right? The prices are still going up, but to be affordable, sometimes, like I said, the middle class people that are getting pay raises or increases, because statistically that's what the majority of the American population is, but they can still only afford 1 in 5 houses that are on the market statistically. So affordability's got a long way to go. They're thinking the rates are going to be in the mid 6s, high 5s. Obviously, they're not expecting anything in the 3s and 4s unless, gosh forbid, something happens catastrophically to our economy or to the world, which none of us need that. So I think if you're buying or selling, you're talking to people that are doing that in 2026, there's worse things that could be happening, but I don't think it's going to be a 2021 year, but hopefully it'll be as good as a 2019 year. For those of y'all in 2019, it was, one of my favorite years because it wasn't that crazy. It didn't have that many ups and downs. It was just a good year for real estate. I remember honestly loving turning into 2020 before the pandemic going, if 2020 is going to be as good as 2019, we are set. And then guys, we just know we went up that roller coaster hill. Let's talk about new construction and supply, right? The new construction side, builders are cautiously optimistic. I think they've been winning quite recently. The National Association of Home Builders is talking about small gains in single family starts. New home sales are going to go up as well as what they're thinking because borrowing costs are going to come down. Rate buy downs are also going to stay very popular. Here's the positive spin, right? Builders are finally able to bring more product to the market with incentives. So that's the good news. We know that we're in a shortage of inventory. Builders are going to be a big help for this. So if prices are coming down, people can buy more. I feel like we're in the flashy new economy where people always want a new house and they're going to stay a couple years and go get another new house, just like they do with washing machines and cars. So I think new construction's got a big thing here. And hopefully the forecast will come true, right? The builders are well set and well poised to pick up property like they've been doing at a pretty decent price. They're getting to new areas. I think it's going to go well for the building, and I think we're going to see a lot more new construction and supply coming out of the ground. So let's talk about demographics, right? Cash and competition. It also hits on like who's buying. No surprise, if you watched any of my videos or read any statistics from NAR, single women are buying more than single men, divorced couples, anybody like that. So, and they're buying more than retirees and baby boomers, right? So that's a good thing to know because we're seeing that statistically women's salaries are getting on par with men's salaries, which is a whole different topic, not trying to get into, but we're seeing more single females buying, but we're seeing the more retirees follow behind them. And so what does that mean? Well, we're seeing a shift in family dynamics. We're seeing less children being born per family. So we're going to start seeing a better boom for smaller houses. And that's what they're kind of alluding to into here and what you're going to start seeing in new construction, or you've been seeing it for the last 30 years where the McMansions that you could buy for 5,000 square feet are now turning into 2,200 square feet. Doesn't mean they're cheaper, but it's less size. They don't need as much space because there's not as many people living under one roof, which can also be good for first-time home buyers because the smaller the house, we know the smaller the price sometimes. So that's a good thing. The flip side is that cash and equity heavy buyers are keeping the bar high on selling because, guys, they paid that price a couple years ago and they want to keep that price. And so they don't necessarily have to come down because they have the equity. Their interest rates are super low or they paid cash. Like they're not a rush, if you will, to sell it. So even as rates drop, they don't necessarily going to sell their house because their rates are still a lot lower than that. Let's see what else I want to add. I think that's it for the demographics part. Let's talk about mortgage rates real quick. So finally, the mortgage rates. So a lot of forecasters are thinking it's going to be in the 6 to 6.3 range for an average for a 30-year mortgage in 2026. Some are saying it's in the high 5s. Some are saying brief spikes over 7. Guys, we know that mortgage rates are volatile. I can't say that word very well, but we know that. That's going to happen. That just happens all the time. I don't care if they're in 2s. Like it's going to be volatile. They're going to go up and down. I've seen it. But what we need to understand is like it looks like it's going to be bookmarked pretty well. So quit having the discussion on interest rates, start having a discussion on value and price and affordability, and then play the market as they go up and down. The optimistic version is they're moving from 7% down to the 6s, and it's a big psychological unlock. NAR estimates a 1-point drop in rates that can expand the pool of household buyers by millions and potentially add hundreds of thousands of extra home sales. So that's good. The cautious version, though, of this conversation is don't anchor your strategy on the magical rate. Multiple sources are saying that the pre-pandemic 3% rates, they're not coming back, but people are still holding on to that. So even though 7 to 6 unlocks a whole other buyer pool, mentally it helps people understand. We've still got the baby boomers talking about interest rates being in the 18% back in the 70s, but people heard that word 3 and they're holding on to that like a dog on the bone. So you're still gonna have an argument, you're still gonna have a conversation with buyers about interest rates being high, even though they are normal or naturally average at the moment. So where does it all land, right? So what I said is in 2026, a real rebound or just a reset is a really wide cycle, right? So are we rebounding or are we resetting? I don't think anybody's expecting exponential growth or the bottom to fall out. So that's good. I'm the glass half full on this kind of stuff. Personally, this looks like this time of year, there's gonna be a boom in the first part of the year than we've had in a long time. So I would expect the first quarter into the second quarter to be higher than we have had it the last 2 or 3 years because of that pent-up demand. I do believe that a lot of buyers have had goldfish memories, right? So yeah, if it was 2022, May-ish, when rates went from like 3 and 4 to 7, those people remembered the rates, they stopped buying, they couldn't afford it. It's been 3 years. It's going to be going on 3 years this May when interest rates really started going through the roof. Those buyers have already bought and moved on. So now it's a new pool of buyers. And since they've been aware of buying, guess what? They've only heard 6 and 7. So they are getting there. So hopefully a lot of the buyers have goldfish memories and they just forget about the higher rates and they know I have to buy something. The pros still outweigh the cons. We still get to write off interest deduction, all that stuff. So I think it's still going to be a bullish market in the first part. And if you're here in like the South Carolina Midlands, the national trends actually are a lot higher and worse, if you will, than what we're looking at here in the local economies. I'd love to know if you think it's going to be a rebound or a reset market, because who knows, but we'll look back in a year and figure it out because, you know, the economists are using the data they've got, but at the end of the day, I think we may come out differently, but we'll have to see.